Yeah. Yeah. So it's really helpful.
All right, we got a crazy big turnout here today.
Come on, man.
Hopefully everyone likes open source web applications.
Woo!
Yeah. Never really done a presentation before. I'm recording myself right now. So everyone bear with me for the fun. So utilizing open source web apps painlessly. My name's Daniel Kraft. There's my Twitter handle there. I think we're going to do some live testing if you guys have, no one has really devices, so maybe not. But there's really cool real-time applications that are cool for groups like the CVDev group or my Dungeons and Dragons group or the band I'm in. Just little, we'll see them later. This is my talk about Sandstorm. All right, so an overview of what the talk is today. We're going to go about basics. I'm going to do a live demo as best we can. We'll see how it goes. We'll install it from a scratch, from an empty DigitalOcean server I just spun up like half an hour ago. We'll configure it with both Google authentication and GitHub, and it's all done right in Sandstorm through their UI. It's brilliant, and we're going to demo some apps. I think that's what Sandstorm is really about. Is about open source web applications, making them easier, more accessible, maybe standardized, and secure and easy to securely test. And use. And then we're going to go over the Sandstorm grains, which are what Sandstorm calls the instances of those web applications. So you can install a web application once. Etherpad is a big one of the first ones, just like a Google Docs alternative. And you can spin up as many as you want, and those instances are called grains. And then we're going to talk about porting and developing applications for it. And again, I'll kind of try to do that live, or at least show you as much as I can without the whole kind of boring setup process. But anyway, here we go. So about me, I'm a graduate from CVQC and UW Stout. Did the online degree there. That was fun. I'm a full stack developer at Rostar. That means I don't know front end or back end or really anything much a lot. I just, do whatever they tell me to do, and it's going to be anywhere on the internet. They're like, it's the internet, you do it. So, and Rostar is we do e-commerce. I run e-commerce sites for 3 different things. I'm not sent by them in any capacity, but it's a cool company. I like working for them. We play a lot of ping pong. I work mostly with PHP, jQuery, and just general administration stuff. And I'm an open source ideologue. I say that because I'm not a great developer. I don't have a crazy big GitHub profile. There's a couple cool things there. But anyway, I hope to change that and be more involved in the open source community. But right now, I'm an advocate. So, all right. I'm going to read this word for word because I wrote it and I thought it sounded good. Sandstorm's purpose: for every great web application installed, there's a sysadmin with at least a dozen headaches. An easy alternative is to pay a monthly fee for a company to take care of those headaches for you. But in response to that, the guys at Sandstorm have said it best.
Could you possibly shift you a little bit?
Oh, sure.
What was that?
Or around the other side.
Around the other side?
Oh,
I was going to say, it makes sense to move that way a little bit?
because I'm in the way of the slides.
Slides.
That makes a lot of sense. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's all about presentation. All right.
Sweet.
Can you see this TV? All right, sweet. Sorry about that. Well, let's go back then. All right, so we're talking about Sandstorm's purpose. It's painful sometimes to install web application. There's tons of really cool projects out there. You can scope GitHub any day, and there'll be, I don't know, just people build these tiny, a lot of times single-purpose applications, and that's really what Sandstorm is going to thrive on, is these single-purpose applications that don't have much use, and it might seem silly to install it on your server when you're just going to use it once, but it's those tiny projects, stuff that you guys have done in your spare time and maybe thrown up there, that's where Sandstorm really shines at and makes them useful and applicable and distributable, really. So this is what they say. Open source software, for it to make sense, the user has to be running their own instance. Software as a service and open source web apps just don't make sense together because it's not really open source if you can't run the modified code. And the high barrier to entry shuts out hobby projects or anything unwilling to be monetized. If they're going to set up an open source project and to set up their own software as a service system, it's a whole business model. And like I said, this makes it easy for distribution. All right, the developers of Sandstorm, a guy named Kenton Barta, just watched a bunch of videos on him. He used to work at Google. He's one of those genius tech guys. I wrote this thing, Captain Proto, or he worked at Google, did like protocol buffers, and then Captain Proto is the thing he wrote himself and is owned by Sandstorm company, but and that handles all the authentication, or not authentication, handles all the data transfer, anything in and out of any of these Sandstorm grains. We'll go into it later, but it's complicated. I've been working with Sandstorm for the past 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks maybe, and just playing around with it. And this is just kind of my presentation on that whole experimentation and process. So don't expect an expert or anything. I forgot to mention that. But and then he's only a co-founder though. He's got this girl named Jade Wang, she worked with Meteor.js, which is part of what Sandstorm is built off of. But yeah, so he's just the head developer, and there's a whole team of people on, and they're all on IRC. They're super cool. There's only like 8 core developers or something silly, and they're all in the IRC, and they're all just cool people. And you could tell they're on. I've been messing around with it at 2 a.m. and they're up at 2 a.m. or at noon. They're those dedicated people. It's a cool team. They call them sand cats. They call themselves sand cats for whatever reason. Installation requirements for Sandstorm. You're going to want a Linux server. Can be any Linux stack. I've only tested it with Ubuntu, so there's a precursor there. But it must be 64-bit, and which was crazy. I spun it up in DigitalOcean on my personal server, the one I screw around with, and which technically is my production server for my website too, but it should have been down and has gone down several.
You do.
It goes down intermittently and then I fix it. But so it's just a big test server, and I was able to spin it up on there. I thought I'd run into a billion different problems with all the garbage I've been throwing on there, but no. I even had to go to DigitalOcean and switch my server from 32-bit to 64. I took it down, switched out the architecture or whatever, and yeah, worked great. And you need at least 1 gig of RAM on the server. Won't install if there's not at least 1. So, but preferably 2. I've noticed there's been some of the heavier applications that have died on it, and then I upped my server to 2 there. So it is a little bit of memory hog as far as open source applications goes usually. Well, there's a lot going on to it, and we'll check it out here. All right, as far as installation goes, this is it. You SSH into the server, and you run that curl command. And it's very simple. I should be all set up and ready to do it here. Oh, this is me. I'm recording this. All right. So we'll go to... Oh, this is the server in the the bottom left here. I did one I just spun up. It's the first time I logged into it, and I changed the password. That's all I've done so far. So hopefully this works. We're going to install Sandstorm. Now this is going to run a crazy, complicated. I'm pretty sure you need to be logged in as root for this, but I haven't tried being logged in as anything else.
Always run the script from curl as root.
Don't get ahead of me. You're getting
copy and paste commands from GitHub.
You're getting ahead of me. All right. Now this is. It says how are you going to use this Sandstorm install? 1 or 2. Default is 1. I'm going to hit enter. All right. Now it says a full server with automatic setup. So this is what they're going to do. It lists out install Sandstorm. Automatically keep Sandstorm up to date, configure auto-renewing HTTPS, configure a user that owns Sandstorm's files, and configure Sandstorm to start on system boot. Is that cool with you? I'm going to say yes, and I hit enter. All right, now what they do here, it's called sandcats.io, and it's saying choose your desired Sandcat subdomain, which is just they run a subdomain service for you to. It's installed on my VM, obviously, but they just kind of forward it from, what's that called? Whatever. Subdomain. What's a good name? It's got to be unique, so it can't be test or
Test 2.
cats. Test 2? That's a good name, because we're going to be going to this. Anybody with devices, I expect to.
Beer 5?
Beer 5. That's. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy, because Hey, we got it. It does have you enter an email address. They've never actually sent me an email address. Or they've never sent me an email yet. And I spelled my email wrong, so hopefully it doesn't. She'll still show me that, right? All right, so it's doing this whole certificate thing. It's doing its thing. Now, what this is a very complicated bash script. I never written a bash script like this, or really very many complicated at all. Let's see, I had a copy of it up, didn't I? Anyway, it doesn't really matter. But so, yes, there's a good point that, that Mr. Hogan brought up here. Be careful about piping things to bash, so don't ever just curl any website and pipe into bash. I thought this was very funny. Don't do that. Basically. And then someone bought this domain, and basically if you do that, it just tells you don't do it and you're an idiot. Especially if you have root access to your machine. So, in most cases, don't curl things. But I checked out this script and very sure that it messed with my whole file system and infected my children. Obviously. For Kent and Varda. So, that's installation complete. It has you type in your name, your email address, pick a subdomain. Let's make sure that I'm not lying to you here and go to it. Oh, yep, link to configure. And we're going to do this. beer5.sandcats.io. We're going to the administration dealie here, and it's up. I'm not a liar, I'm a wizard. So, what we're going to do here is configure the Google login. Everyone uses Google. Everyone has a Google account. Everyone cool. If they don't trust them. And it gives you these instructions right here. Go to console.developers.google.com. I kind of have to show you this. It's dumb to mess around in my Google config settings, but it's gonna work, and that's like the craziest thing I've ever seen on how easy it was to set all this up. I think that's kind of the point I'm making. I like this tool, and I think that people should use it, and it doesn't take 5 weeks of your life to kind of figure it out and make it happen. It's going to make open source more accessible, and that's the thing. Oh, I have to accept some terms of service. I don't trust them. Maybe I don't want to do this. This is going to be very boring as far as presentation is concerned. And it looks like this is giving me something funky. Alright, so what we're going to do instead is go back to our, there we go. GitHub is a lot easier. So it has GitHub authentication built in as well. And this is all through Meteor.js, as I understand. So application name, well, this is obviously beer5. Homepage URL is beer5.sandcats.io. Application description, I don't care. Oh, I have to, sure I have the callback URL here. Oh, it's probably HTTPS, isn't it? You betcha. Yeah, security, they're crazy. I've never been big in security, and that's going to be one of the main points I'll go over, is that Sandstorm is awesome with security. Like and usually it's to a fault. It hasn't really messed with my ability to play around with it too much at all. It's been pretty crazy. But here we are. I'm going to authenticate with GitHub. And that'll mean that, only your cool friends are open source developers on GitHub anyway, right? And those are the only people you want to share access to your little micro cloud server with. So we have this. I haven't configured email yet. I haven't played around with that. I've never had any success with SMPTC servers. Anybody who has should let me know. I'll talk to them about it. Always bad with email. Great, settings have been saved. What I'm going to do now is, well, heck, do you guys want to, anybody have a GitHub account and want to log in? No? It's cool if it's interactive. Oh, got it. Yeah, do it.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Because what we're going to go through next is kind of the demonstration. I can show you some cool stuff that is real time and does work, and you just saw it set up from scratch, and I found that kind of amazing, and I hope you guys think it's cool too. Otherwise, I can sit down or whatever. All right, so we don't have any users yet, but what I'm going to do is spin up a grain. So installation complete. We picked a subdomain. The user authentic Google was doing something weird. The internet was dodgy. I'm assuming that's why. But anyway, it was super easy to get it configured with Google because most of your friends probably aren't developers. But all right, we're going to spin up some grains here. These are the examples. Does any of this sound interesting to anybody? Because I've tried most of these. These ones on the bottom, haven't actually tried them. But the ones on the top are super cool. Anything? Reveal.js slideshow editor. Does that sound cool to you guys?
I don't know. Slack alternative sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah.
All right, we'll check out that. But I heard slideshow from somewhere in the back. Anyway, I'm about to blow your guys'
Well done.
Yeah, that's
done.
Something like the front to me.
You should do a slideshow.
Thank you.
That'll be great.
This is Reveal.js based presentation that I've been doing right now, but this is built in a little Slack app, or Slack. We'll check it out later. In a Sandstorm app that someone built up. It uses GitHub style Markdown, and Reveal.js is the backbone to run the whole slideshow thing. So that was this whole presentation was in Sandstorm. Did that blow your minds?
Dude, I'm like totally logged into your site.
Nice. It's not my site. It's our site. It's
I
our
was
site.
rejected.
Oh, no way.
It's a private server.
With GitHub?
In order to install apps,
Oh, no.
you need to be invited by the admin. The admin can
You're
create
right.
invites in the admin channel.
You're right. Well, I don't want to invite you guys to it.
Why you invite me, dude? So it says you're unauthorized.
Oh yeah, maybe. Think of it. That's actually one thing when you're setting this up. There's a couple of caveats. One, double check the callback URI or whatever when you're typing in the authentication. Two, that it generated this little the URL that expires after 10 minutes. So you just have to generate another one. Not a big deal, but you're like, what the heck?
You got 10. You're good.
Yeah. So, but I did that, and now I'm authenticated, and I'm not. It's a private. Okay, I did this to myself, didn't I? This is my fault. All right, so we got this here. Well, I should be the admin. What's going on? Oh, maybe I gotta do this again. Sorry, guys, I screwed the pooch on this one. All right.
It's okay, we're all learning we'll do this ourselves. Because I can totally see myself doing exactly what happened here.
You get to talking about stuff, and what do you do? All right, I have a new. All right. I did configure this, save configuration, and oh, this might be an issue with that. Oh, never mind, I gotta go to users. Hey, these are the people that have requested access here. Oh man, you guys are all admins. Everyone's...
Hey, editing. So that was really cool, because I'm sitting here,
No post back.
I'm sitting here, and it was at the unauthorized screen, and as soon as you did that, it took the unauthorized screen away and went right into it. That was really cool.
That's Meteor. It's been doing some weird things since I've been tried it. Like, this
No,
is
that's
all...
awesome. That is awesome. I didn't refresh or anything. Just brought me right now.
Yeah, everything's real time. Apparently, even, and I haven't done as much testing as even when you start writing apps or using apps and they have a database connection, something weird like Meteor grabs that and keeps it open and live. So even if you have like it's a MySQL connection to a data value and that updates while there's an open session, it'll update it like automatically. I haven't done it yet, but I've seen some apps that do weird stuff live like this, and it's very cool.
I don't even care. I'm loving every minute of this, what I see, how I can do with this.
It's super cool. There's some weird stuff about it that makes, for larger organizations or for if I was trying to do a lot with my own server and I have a couple of groups of people that I want to have specific apps authenticated for. It's kind of weird to administer right now. This is a beta. It's an early beta, apparently they say, but yeah, for multiple groups of people, administration is a little wonky. At least it seems to me. I haven't seen if there's some crazy add-ons they got to make it easier yet, but yeah. So these are all the apps we were checking out. Our own little Slack app. It's called rocket.chat. So we're installing rocket.chat here. I'm gonna decided to do a live demo and came unprepared. I think most of this I should be able to do from over here. Yeah, it's really the everything wasn't. Sandstorm isn't super quick. It's got it definitely for what it's doing. I would expect more lag, more time to the install and everything. I think it's more the internet connection. I'm going to use this username with an upside down mouse. I'm going to do that. So here's rocket.chat. Now I just spun up an instance. You guys, if you're logged in or whatever, should be able to go to. Should be in everybody's apps, or I might have to Actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's giving me the option to install an app too, so that's all I see is a button.
What about seeing any other grains? Does grains show you anything? Or are they all private?
We have no grains.
Okay. So what we're going to do is go to rocket.chat. And yeah, so user administration, I would love it to be a more, like you saw that the user page, it was just, here's the people that have requested access, or here's the people you've sent emails to access, and what they might be. But on a case-by-case basis, all the authentication for your users, and this is what an administrator would do, is handle it. It's handled by grain, which is kind of crazy, but it'll work. So I'm going to create this share of a link. Now anyone with this link can access this grain, and I'm going to go to the Twitter sphere here. There's a pretty guy with shorter hair. And say, all right. There we go. All right. So if you guys had, I should have put a hashtag on there. So that's one thing I would like to see better, though, is more of a unified approach to global applications for this. But so there's a bunch of cool things in here. There's even like a kind of a jukebox application that I thought was awesome. We would have weird applications. The only thing I'd see if you ever like having a huge party and there's 10 different people that want to listen to music, you would just spin it up on Sandstorm. Like, it's a very small application, or a very small use case for an application. But it's cool to have it in Sandstorm, because if I ever have a party, I can have people upload other files and run a server, and it's cool. It's cool. Trust me. All right. So about this is really one of the selling points of developing for Sandstorm. Common app responsibilities like authentication, authorization, document managing, scaling, backups, encryption, and more are handled automatically by the platform. Which sucks if you have an application you're trying to port that has like a built-in authentication. You actually have to remove it, and because it's all handled like you saw by sharing links. And once somebody has access or authenticated with Google.
Do you have to have a Google account to authenticate them? Or can it be any email?
You can do it with email. Like I said, there's an SMTP server, SMTP server, and but I've never had any. I've never even messed with it because I always hate email servers. I've had some bad experiences, so I didn't mess with it. I just decided to go with the Google and the GitHub because it makes sense. So about grains, they're called that because of fine grain containerization. They lock down everything. Everything within a grain is all self-encapsulated. From this rocket.chat app has every dependency built into a little package file and can be downloaded and the backup downloaded. The whole package itself can be downloaded and installed. If you built a custom one, you could run it on someone else's Sandstorm server, or they could run it on their server by you could send them a file. You could go and change the code and just package it in the cool packaging thing. I guess I'm getting kind of ahead of myself, and any data that's stored is all in this local var directory. For every application gets its own var directory, and anything is stored there. All right. So what is Sandstorm to different people? Is where I was kind of going with this presentation. To a user, it matches their processing of how they really understand web applications or tech in general. It's single task apps, really. rocket.chat, the Slack app, is all containerized and none of that data leaks out. There's Etherpad, like a Google Docs app. It's all containerized and all taken care of. And one unified interface. When we do have people on our rocket.chat, well, That's me. Hey. Yeah. Doug's in on it. Anyway, so it's just neat. So yeah, and all these spin up new apps here. Sharing them is, I'm not going to tweet a bunch of people because that's going to get weird. But and that's linked in with my face. So we'll probably see some weird people get in there later, maybe. But they don't have GitHub accounts. Whatever. All these are all, yeah, there, and they'll anything you install and share with somebody, you can install a billion of these and a billion different instances of them as well. They have a separate rocket.chat app for a separate group. Like I said, administration for that is on like a link-by-link basis, but yeah, a bunch of these are very cool. And I'm kind of getting off topic. I don't know where we were. So that's what Sandstorm is to a user. To a developer, I'm interested in security. It's a fun thing to do. I went to DEF CON a couple years ago, and that was crazy and just cool to see all these hacker people. But to think like a hacker, to think as a security professional is getting completely, it's a whole different process than a developer tries to solve a problem, tries to get an output for a given input at its very basis, at its very core. And when you're trying to, not everyone's a security professional, but you have to worry about so many different things in a different thought process. So when everything's containerized, and the people that develop this are those security professionals, they even put a disclaimer that nothing's 100% secure, but they've locked it down pretty well from what I can tell. When you do package local dependencies, I want to do some tests on this, see how it actually works, but apparently if you put in a bootstrap, just a whole list of mess of bootstrap files, and it'll probably just take your bootstrap.min.css, whatever. It'll take what you use, so you can go nuts and install whatever you want. When you actually package grains for Sandstorm, it'll narrow it down and take only what you used while it was running. And hopefully it'll work when I demo that later. To administrator, backing up these things is awesome. It's very easy. There's a button to download everything. Access control lists are what kind of runs everything. But like I said, it's on a grain-by-grain basis, all kind of user authentication, which can get kind of tedious when you're giving a presentation in front of 20 people in front. But otherwise, it's all handled in the app. And even a user, I was playing around this when I built my own app. Even a user sees there's you update the code and try to install or reinstall your own application is really what you do to upload it, even to your public server. They'll get a notification that says, "Hey, there's a newer version. Do you want to deal with it?" And you can say no, like it is a desktop application. And if they do, I haven't tried it, but apparently, if they do upgrade to they upgraded the new version of code that you put out there, and they don't like it, they can even revert themselves, which I think is pretty crazy. See, I'll show you how easy it is to take an application, and that's a copy of my slides there. Where is beer? There's beer. So these are a list of things, and what we're going to do is download it. And I now have my own copy, a backup. This is running on beer and downloaded to my downloads folder. And now I can go to my personal one that I have set up here. And I should be able, I don't know if I have rocket.chat installed on here. You want me to show you or are you going to take my word for it? I'm going to show you anyway because whatever, we got an hour to kill, right? Rocket.chat. So yeah, it'll take these hopefully we don't have any issues with this. And this is kind of the same process almost the same process you'd go to when you create your own application and package it. You can, it's not going to be in the App Store yet. I'd like to submit something to the store because, honestly, I think that's the coolest thing. I think that's what open source web apps needed, is just an app store. Just like you'd have, but you're administrating a server. But just like you'd have from your phone. That's why smartphones for stupid people happens all the time. Smart applications for stupid administrators. I think that's pretty cool. So this is on my the grain I have running on my own server. This should work. I'm going to go to my downloads folder. Hopefully nothing weird on there. There we go. Alright. So I took a backup from the beer5.sandcats.io and transferred it to one running on another VM, and it should be working here very shortly. Putting my money where my mouth is here. Alright, we'll come back to it. In the interest of keeping things interesting. Alright. And they mentioned this to an organization. A lot of this is just from the About page of Sandstorm. But yeah, confinement and auditability. A lot of these cloud services can't, like Google Docs. Your organization, any company or business doesn't want to be running that. I think it's cool for a small business that can't afford to have, or even legally can't run software as a service. But they still want to make sure everything's contained in a secure environment, and it's kind of cool. So under the hood, everything is run off of C++ and Meteor.js. I haven't actually looked at I haven't looked at much of the source code for Sandstorm itself that runs everything. Gets kind of crazy, but Meteor.js I've only heard of in the past, but I actually started looking at it. That live data. Let's see if this is back up yet. Nay. Now this is a separate instance, but boom. All right, so it's on the chat I was having with Doug here from the different VM instance of the same application. Downloaded a backup of it and put it onto this one. I thought that was pretty crazy neat how it worked very easily. But so you can always take backups. You can always spin up a new Sandstorm VM or a new Sandstorm application, and then it's pretty cool. So we're gonna go to Meteor.js handles all the real-time features. It's all in JavaScript. I haven't messed with it much, but it's something that I'm actually interested in looking at now. And then Captain Proto is the protocol buffers. I think it's something this guy, the developer, the Kenton Varda guy, he wrote for Google, something called protocol buffers, which handles security. Everything, the security and transferring of data. Remote procedure, RPC, remote procedural call. This stuff's a little over my head, a bunch. I don't know. Things can get crazy complicated when it comes to data, I guess. But also there's probably wizardry involved as well. And we'll get to porting or developing apps. This is where a shaky presentation is going to get shakier. All right. Don't click all the time. So Sandstorm supports any programming language that runs on Linux, not just PHP, such as Meteor, Python, Rails, Node, PHP, C++, Go, Rust, and more. That's what it says. I've only done it with PHP. I don't know with the Python a little bit, but
So if it's Linux, then that could also include .NET and C.
oh, don't. I guess I've never
just
actually.
announced that this week. Somebody did a port, and then .NET has had mono, but they committed to porting the entire .NET core over to
I've never tried to do any kind of .NET stuff in Linux. Have you? Oh,
I failed miserably at it multiple times.
no, really?
But that's just what I'm doing.
No, I mean, but potentially, I'm going to say 100% yes. It'll run .NET like a champion. Anyway, I think it's cool technology. So that you can check some of this stuff out yourself. All right. So the process. Now that we're into it, I don't know if I want to go into the whole. I'll show you a little bit how the code works, and I'll see if you guys want to see any more. It uses a Vagrant tool. They have a whole great development documentation. And they use a customized version of Vagrant. So you set that up, import your code, include the dependencies if you had them, which I believe I spelled incorrectly. If you have them somewhere else other than in the code base there. And then you run Vagrant, test it, and there's like a package protocol that just packages it up. Or package command. If you guys don't know what Vagrant is, anybody familiar with Vagrant? Yeah, it's neat. But they have a custom one. It's Vagrant-SPK. These are what you need. You look at the documentation. You need those three things: Git, VirtualBox, Vagrant SPK. I did have a problem with running Vagrant SPK on my Ubuntu machine. Didn't try too hard to fix it. Don't know what the heck it could have been. But it ran on the Mac like a champion. So that's always good. It could have been an issue with VirtualBox too. Done some weird stuff to that machine as well. And then you set up the VM. It has all the documentation on there. And then you can go nuts. You can take a project you've already written. I had this very simple dice roller application that was just like jQuery to roll a dice that I built while I was bored playing Dungeons & Dragons, and someone else was trying to talk to a fair maiden or something. I don't really remember what was going on. But I wrote just a little dice roller application, and I decided to make that my kind of test project to make sure all this worked and figuring that out. And then you fix whatever data you had to store data. You have to fix that and kind of normalize it to Sandstorm's format, which I haven't done a lot with apparently it's very easy to set up. It includes MySQL. It includes that in the configuration file. Otherwise, if you're using anything else, Redis or Mongo or something, I know there are tutorials for that stuff, but you have to add that in the configuration file, which is initialized. Everything's done when you if you follow this tutorial right here and go to the packaging tutorial at the bottom here. It's basically Vagrant-SPK init, and it'll copy all the files that you need to distribute the Sandstorm and package this Sandstorm app. So you go nuts, import a project, fix that, and that was going to be the end of my talk. But do you guys want to see some of the code or see an example of the packaging? It's cool. It's nothing crazy. I'll.
How are you using this at work now, or primarily outside of work, or?
I'd like to. They hate open source sometimes. I mean, not generally. I tried to. This past few weeks are really what I've been trying to just play with it. A buddy sent me a link, and I thought it was awesome. Tweeted about it, and then this guy's like, "You should do a presentation." He's one of the core developers, and I was like, "Yeah, it sounds great." And then I was like, "I like you guys. The CVDev group's cool. Maybe they'll have me." And you said, "Cool." So that was like a month ago, right after demoing it. And it turns, but since using it, this kind of application, I've been, I'm going to say dreaming out, because I'm pretty sure I've had at least a couple dreams about something like this. I was going to start a company right out of school, but that didn't work out. Those guys are fun, the guys I was trying to work with. But I don't have anything nearly.
So you could host do these grains yourself on your own web server, like downloading their code, or you can host it on their site as well, correct?
They do offer software as a service to run your own Sandstorm instance.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think that their platform, and I wish them the best of luck as a company, and I hope they keep going. Probably going to be run on donations because it's just too easy to run your own. It's
easy to run your own if you've got somebody else running the infrastructure for you. If you're talking about spending a few bucks a month, where you don't have to manage the server yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the biggest piece is that you've got one George and Rob's running all this stuff and it goes down and you really complain to, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that are just willing to pay for someone to complain to. More than anything else. That's what they pay for, is someone to complain to. Right?
Hell, I'll be that guy.
I see people all the time. They're like, I'm gonna
No,
buy.
trust me, you don't want to be that guy.
I'll be the people who say we're doing which technology because they pay for support and we can call support.
Yeah. But yell at them until it fixes itself, or they fix it, I suppose.
But no, it just makes it look like it's that simple to spin up any number of apps, either based off of Google authentication or GitHub authentication, and you've got an app up and running.
So it looks like it's a much nicer and more flexible version. Think about it.
Oh, rub that in, right?
Is it more?
Huh?
Never mind.
No, I mean, all those different apps, I think that's really
Yeah. Do you guys want to see some of them demoed, or I'll show you the end result of this amazing application that I wrote myself and ported. It's just a couple of input boxes, a couple of Ajax queries, and sending some data over to this very, very intense storing data in a level.txt folder. This is in the var directory of the Sandstorm guy. To build this, what I did here was first, after you go through the installation, honestly, a lot less hard. I'm not going to do it all live because it took forever to provision the specialized Vagrant box or whatever. I think it takes forever to initialize a Vagrant box anyway, but this one seemed to be an extra long process. But yeah, so you set up that. You put it up, you type in vagrant-spk dev. Oh, you have to be in the directory of your application, whatever it was. Also, I copied a boilerplate too. So I have a boilerplate copy of code, took out the default index file, added my own, installed initialized Vagrant from that file, or from that folder, and typed in vagrant-spk dev, and it's going to put something up here. So your app is now available for Sandstorm from Sandstorm server, and go to local. I have a bunch of them there. Local. Oh, I copied my hacker slides here. Keeping backups of things. That's why Sandstorm is cool. I have 2 copies of my presentation, just in case anything weird happened. Also, about a second laptop. I was kind of worried about my first presentation going weird, I guess. So yeah, and this is this is one of the instances of it's called Thaco Plus for Dungeons and Dragons. Oh, it's crazy. We use the old school version of rolling dice and of calculating armor class and hitting. So I made sure to keep that in there. Anyway, it stores this information is all. That's basically it writes that to a text file in the var directory. Didn't get the SQL stuff going, but I will, and then then we could do a redemo, I guess, maybe, whatever. So this is the local version running on. If I shut this down with Control-C, it doesn't even like it. Everything's live and always querying, I guess, which is for better and for worse depending on your internet connection. But cloud services are cloud services, right? So that's my presentation. Check out Sandstorm. Maybe we should set one up for this dev group.
should.
I'm gonna bow so I can drink my beer and sit down.
What I want to know is, I have a couple of questions for you.
Oh yeah, I should do that.
So when you set up the rocket chat, it never showed up for me. How does it?
Oh, I
So
kind of blew through that.
yeah,
That was the one thing.
I tweeted a link.
yeah. So I'm going to ask you. So if you're going to, so what I'm wondering is if I'm going to set up if I want to use this to set up a public chat, how do people get into that?
You would have that. You would have them all. As far as I've seen, when I screw around with my friends, you just have to have everyone click on a link, and depending on the application, all the authentication is. You can do it easily in the grain when you set it up.
So I can install the thing. I can have it generate the link, sign up link for me, and just attach to a web page somewhere.
That would be the way you have to. I would like to see something more public.
Well, I think that's fine because I think it's fine because that's actually what I'm looking to do, something like that. So that's fine. The other question I had is so these things run inside their individual grains. Can you, even though they are, can you pass data between them?
I was going to pass data. There is some crazy, I guess not documentation. It's part of PowerBox UI something. Honestly, I never had to go into too much of it, and it's all seemed fairly complicated. But yeah, there is a way.
So, yeah,
I'd like to see it.
I'm asking for how. I'm just wondering, is there a way? Because it looked like everything's really encapsulated for security purposes. But I'm just wondering, theoretically, how easy. I noticed there's a forms application. I noticed there's a spreadsheet application. How easy is it to dump form data into the spreadsheet?
I was thinking the same thing for character sheets in Dungeons & Dragons. I'd like to see it. I think from what I was reading, you have to authenticate on a per grain basis to pass data into what other grain or what other service, and that's on a per. So not just web application, but per instance of the application. As best I could tell, but that's not to say that you can't publish information. You can publish static information publicly with this. I was doing the slide background, for example, is from the slides I was using. I was all the Sandstorm people sent me an IRC because they're really neat, fun. But I downloaded, hosted it on my own grain on the media with whatever media application they have here, this is all just stuff I've been testing with. Some of it's pretty cool, some of it's silly. Where is it? We can tag onto the Dave Rose was a file sharing application. That's pretty neat. But yeah, so just your basic media storing, I guess, but still all handled on my server and all with a killer interface and all entirely. I can back it all entirely with right here. It's 1.42 megabytes, and just click download, take that, put it somewhere else on Sandstorm. I just think that's very cool, very neat part about it. But yeah, those are all the Sandstorm slides. And yes, so this stuff is published. I'm going to try the CMS, because apparently you can run a WordPress on here. And again, it's all static, so I don't think you'll be able to have anybody log in and comment on stuff, things like that. It'll only publish static content, probably for the time being. It's still in beta.
That's all you need.
But yeah.
That's all you need. That's pretty cool.
So yeah, this is whatever publishing. And then you can publish stuff. Also do a weird URL, so get a shortener or a domain. Yeah, anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you. Oh, this is is going to be.
Thanks for coming out, everyone. Looking to schedule the next couple of meetings, so if you have any thoughts or ideas on presentations, we'd definitely love to hear from folks. And how many people is this